Mr. Meyer, we're going to reconvene now. So even though we are not in our entirety. So next on the agenda, we have a Measure E update. So Mr. Miranda.
Good morning. I'll kick it off for David. Just want to say that one thing that hasn't changed during this pandemic is the pace and intensity of our facilities program. The facilities department has just really been relentless in achieving its goal of delivering modernized school environments that really support the educational process for all students. So I'm very happy that we're here today to provide you an update on the program. David Miranda, Executive Director of Facilities Development and Planning, will be presenting with Sean Abbott, our newest member of our facilities team, to provide us this update.
Perfect. Thank you, Yumi. And thank you, members of the board, Superintendent Baker, executive staff, and our small audience here. So really, I have the privilege on behalf of the Facilities Division to present this update. To Yumi's point, we've been hard at work. In many cases, we've been looking to expedite work as we've had a smaller presence on campus with less staff, no students on campus. We're able to really expedite construction as best we can, and we've done so in many cases, and I'll highlight some of those along the way. So here we have our presentation outline. We really broke it up into 4 different chunks. First off, we're going to start with our traditional project update. I had a question from Dr. Baker recently with respect to how many projects we're currently working on, and I have that number now. It's actually 40, and we'll highlight those right then and there. So of course, our projects come in different shapes and sizes. They're all in different phases as well, right? Some are in the planning stage, some are actively in construction with boots on the ground and shovels in the ground, some are in the design phase, kind of in that early stage, right? But a total of 40 altogether. We're going to speak a little bit towards Jordan High School, specifically with respect to the next phase out there, which should be pretty exciting. We're also going to touch base on the Community Workforce Development Agreement. It's been some time since we host a facilities update with the school board. Actually, it's been since December, so it's a good time for us to really touch base with respect to that agreement, where we are and what's next with respect to the agreement. And then we're going to close things off with our inclusive facilities presentation. We're really going to get into a potential change in space with respect to restrooms and locker rooms, in particular at the secondary schools. With that, I'll dive right into the project update. So again, you see quite a bit of projects listed that we show as recently completed. I'm going to highlight a few of them just with respect to time and not go one at a time all the way through. There you see a few projects pictured. So you see Muir, K8 down at the left, also Lakewood High School with a typical renovated and modernized classroom. Really what you're seeing here on the Muir side is a nurse's office or a nurse's station. So of course the highlights, new flooring, new paint, windows, natural light, and you see quite a bit of it just in that picture in and of itself. Really just renovated and revamped spaces altogether. Really what you're seeing on this slide here on the left is phase 4 of our bond program. We're shifting into phase 5, and that's what you'll see in the active section as well. And then the other project we wanted to highlight in terms of recently completed work is Milliken High School. So building 11,000, over 45,000 square feet, 20 plus classrooms, a lot of really cool and neat spaces out there, right? You see some of the photos there. Up on the top left, right in the middle there, you see really current conditions out there. So that picture was taken about a week ago. We now have landscaping in place. We have the seat walls and benches out there for student gathering areas throughout that building complex. The building is looking great. We're currently in what we would call the punch list stage, where we just finish up and tidy up certain small things along the way with contractors before they pack up and call it a day. The image you see to the right is really a courtroom type classroom, right? So we're going to have mock courtroom sessions in that classroom. There's a number of other really neat spaces within that building with respect to different career pathways and just learning methods out there, design spaces, forensic spaces. It's just a really neat building with unique classrooms. From a facility perspective, what we enjoy is there's some larger classrooms, right? So non-traditional 960 square foot rooms, these are a lot bigger, which really gets the district and the school flexibility to do different things. In terms of active projects, I referenced phase 5, which we're currently in, and there you see a number of the sites that are part of phase 5, including Fremont, Madison, Prisk, and Cubberley, and of course Wilson. I really wanted to emphasize just a few of these as well, right? So Wilson High School in particular, I know I've had a few question marks with respect to that project. It's going well. We're currently in phase 1 of 6 phases altogether over a 2+ year stretch. Things are going well. So by design, we always plan out that we're going to uncover quite a few of unforeseen conditions, right? Whenever we open up walls and get into some of these older spaces, there's going to be things we did not project that we encounter along the way. And we've encountered some of those. Frankly, the state architect has been very helpful. They've come out as a field representative and just kind of helped us out of certain situations. Our architect has done a great job with respect to certain recommendations on what we could do in terms of framing certain spaces or opening up certain doorways. And we're really in good shape. What we envision is we'll take these lessons learned from phase 1 into the future phases, which will further expedite construction along the way. And we feel confident we're going to be in good shape in terms of the overall schedule for Wilson High School. You see Millikan High School track and field noted there as well. That's currently in construction. If you were to drive to and from that site, you see it really just underway, right? A lot of dirt, a lot of heavy equipment out there. Things are in great shape. We initially projected a September finish out there. Due to a few project-related delays, we're likely looking at early October for that one. Yet we're in great shape to hit that target. Number of fire alarm projects listed here, which is really just the next in the batch of various phases on the fire alarm side of the house. Site improvements over at Stevenson, specifically in the auditorium and kitchen space. There's HVAC-related work we're doing in there. Also some work with respect to repairing damages on that building. And then portables over at Hughes. We're embarking on a number of these type of projects where we're either replacing aging facilities, whether they be bungalows or aging portables. In many cases, we're also coming in on the back end of HVAC projects or front end of HVAC projects because we want teachers and students coming back to spaces that are all air conditioned and heated and ventilated, right? So not only do we focus on core classrooms and permanent construction, we're also focusing on portables along the way. There you see a few photos. Just took a sampling of certain photos with respect to projects that are in construction. Again, there you see Wilson, which I spoke to down below. You see the windows are boarded up. We have new windows coming in. You see the duct work that's going in and being installed right then and there. What we're looking at doing with help of our construction management firm and our contractor out there is just doing work in as many areas as possible on the campus, right? So if we're waiting on certain equipment to arrive, we go to town and do work with respect to windows or flooring or whatever it may be, and they're doing a great job so far. Planned projects, quite a few here as well. So I broke this up in 2 slides, one which reflects projects for 21-22 school year. The other one will reflect projects for the year that follows. But really just wanted to paint a picture and give a quick snapshot with respect to what else is on the radar. And as you can see, there's quite a few projects there. So we show Wilson High School under that HVAC heading because it will still be under construction a year from now. Also just drawing quick reference to Robinson. That one was initially slated to be under construction now, yet we pushed that back and resequenced. That one is now going to take place next year. We do have a cooperative and very willing contractor out there, so we're going to be able to hold on to that contract. We had one of the best bids we've seen kind of in district history. 22 bids that we received for a hard bid on that job. So we know it was competitive. We know it's a hungry, good contractor, and we're going to hold on to that. Just schedule that out a little later. New construction, I already referenced that we're going to get into phase 2B for Jordan, so I'll table that one for a little deeper into the presentation. And then you see a few more listed there, a few more portable projects, the next track and field project over at Lakewood High School. And really we're working with the site, with Dr. Camarino and others just with respect to the timing of that work, right? We know that CIF has acted and implemented certain guidelines and schedules have changed, and we want to be respectful and mindful of the fact that these athletic activities could take place at a different time than they were originally slated. So we're going to be mindful of that scheduling impact, and we'll just table that, right? So we'll hold on to the DSA stamped plans and specifications, and we'll be ready to go as soon as we feel the site is ready to go. For the following year, there you see kind of the next slate of projects for HVAC, including Avalon, which we're pretty excited about. That project has been in the works and in the design phase for some time. We awarded a contract for a lease-back builder, and we'll soon be ready to really hit the streets and award subcontracts for that one as well. You see a few new construction projects, right? We've been talking quite a bit over the last year plus about renovation efforts and HVAC efforts, yet we still have a few projects on the new construction side of the house. And two of them are highlighted here, Hamilton Middle School Gymnasium and then the Keller Locker Room project, which we're also going to talk about a little further in the presentation. I wanted to highlight the swimming pool project, right? So Wilson High School, we're currently in the early design stages on this project. So just doing schematic design with our project architect. And we're really spending a good chunk of time on the front end of this design because this will serve as the model for the other comprehensive high schools in the district, right? We're looking at equity, we're looking at designing a standard that will work and fit across the different high schools in the district. Wilson just so happens to be the first one in line, and then we'll follow suit really a year or two after with the next one and so forth.
Is that pool going to be located on the west side of Eximino?
Dan, I have a question for you as well.
Is that pool going to be located on the west side of Eximino?
Yes, really across the street, correct?
Yeah,
across the
right.
street from the campus.
Thank
That's
you.
exactly what we're designing.
I'm sorry, Felton.
That's okay. Your power supply for the HVAC and other systems, is that going to be, are you using traditional power supplies or are you using renewable power supply for some of these HVAC systems?
So it does vary per site. So in some cases, we're able to leverage the power supply that we have on an existing campus. In many cases, we're having to upgrade the power supply, and we're doing some of those projects along the way, right? So Fremont jumps out to me as an example. Hughes is another example where we had to upgrade power, really just to meet the capacity that's going to be created with this new demand. In as many cases as possible, we're also working in close conjunction with our maintenance division as they embark on solar and renewable type projects, so we can leverage those cost savings along the way as well. And there's quite a few of those examples where we have a solar project and either an HVAC project that will follow suit within a short time span.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, if I could ask, when you were talking about the Milliken renovations, does that include a space for theater at Milliken? Because Compass is one of our most highly sought-after pathways, and so I'm wondering if there is some type of space being created for the drama department.
Within that one building, or just within future
Or just-
projects and future phases?
Yeah.
So we do have a comprehensive master plan just for the high school in and of itself. So of course, we're underway with the track and field improvements. We're just wrapping up work on building 11,000, as we call it, the new construction endeavor. We'll then embark on the next phases, which include HVAC for the existing buildings and a handful of other projects throughout. It's my understanding we'll touch on really every pathway and every type of building and learning model out there. Some projects just vary. Some are a little different, right? So some may be new construction efforts. A lot of them will be more modernization and HVAC related efforts, including spaces for drama and theater arts.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay,
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Oh, yes, Dr. Benitez.
Yes, I have a COVID-related question, and specifically to our HVAC project. So I know that there's a lot of recent new stuff that has been coming out in terms of filters and the mitigation of airborne bacteria, viruses, illnesses. I'm wondering sort of what considerations our district has made or is making with regard to HVAC projects and any safety and health measures, again, either with the filters themselves or considerations with, as an example, you know, in those areas where air is being recirculated, whether it be a classroom or another space, and there isn't an ability to open windows to get either airflow or natural air in. So anything you can highlight or enlighten us about regarding HVAC, COVID-19, and any safety and health considerations that are out there would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, great question, Dr. Benitez. So I'll speak specifically to the filters, right? Because across our bond program, we've really been focusing in on one of the top of the line filters, which is a MERV 16. And we've been doing, so as many districts are starting to go there due to COVID, we've been doing that really over the past several years. So we started doing that probably in phase 1 or phase 2, right, Brooke? And we continue to do so. Of course, we're more mindful on the health and safety side. We've always been, so that's a point I wanted to stress. Long Beach has done a great job with respect to picking the right filter from day one on this program.
Can you talk a little bit about the filter, just for those of us that don't know, like the technical aspects of it and why that's important?
Yes, so there's different levels, and they really just kind of trend up by number, right? So that there's a MERV 10, there's a 12, there's a 14, there's a 16, which is what we're going with here. And really what they do is they capture more particles, right? So as you know, microscopic materials and certain pieces kind of trend and go to and from, the larger the filter number, which in this case a 16 is deemed pretty much on the top end, it's really built to capture more.
Right, and I'll just add, I know we've been having these conversations for a couple of years, especially in our schools along the 710 corridor and the port. And the reason that that's important is, or my understanding, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that with that filtration system, that the air inside the school is much cleaner than the air outside. And so some of the question is, if we open the windows for fresh air on what we consider to be a cooler day, or a nicer day weather-wise, that we're still dealing with particulate matter and pollution that we can't see. And so the point of having these really intensive filters is because we know we have air quality issues already in Long Beach, that this was done to mitigate the pollution at the beginning because we needed kids to be breathing healthy air.
That's correct. And having non-operable windows and maintaining those spaces closed really helps us solidify that point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to switch gears slightly and jump into Jordan Phase 2B, and there's a series of images, so I'll just kind of walk the board through each of those images. So what we see here is a current site plan. So this is Jordan High School aerial type view, and it really just paints a picture with respect to the buildings around this campus. There's a small little reference or footnote to how many classrooms are within each of those buildings. So you'll see certain buildings with rooms of 16 or 17 count, one building with 9 classrooms. And we really just wanted this as a point of reference before we jump into the next slide or two. For orientation purposes, I should have done this first. Over on the left of this image would be Atlantic. Over on the right would be kind of the back of the campus and Myrtle Avenue. So again, just for point of reference. And then the other piece before I hit the next slide, you see a big X across the middle with a red box. That sits out there now. Those are the interim housing portables that are being used quite a bit. We put an X over there because we just did not reflect that in terms of the overall classroom capacity, right? So our permanent long-term capacity does not include those interim housing portables. So that's what that point of reference is there. Our next slide reflects our original design option. So this is likely the option we last shared with the board some time ago. And if I just orient us over to the Atlantic side of the campus, you see 2 buildings highlighted in kind of a light blue or purple type color. And what you see there, one building houses 14 classrooms, one building was to house 15 classrooms. This was the original design option to address some of the aging facilities on this campus, right? So we had a building 200, 250, and 300. The old cafeteria building, which sat at the corner there off of the parking lot. Part of this phase included the demolition of those buildings and the reconstruction or construction of 2 new 2-story classroom buildings, and that's what's depicted here. What you also see here is a long courtyard or corridor that kind of connects the campus and creates a nice gathering space for kids and a space to eat lunch as well. There's also a small lunch shelter right off of the admin building. Tough to see on here, but it's right just to the right of the administration building. That was all part of Phase 2B as originally designed by the project architect. What we saw with this project as we advanced in design and construction trends started to go a certain way is this was going to be quite costly. So we started being mindful of the cost, and we started looking into other potential options just to have it in our back pocket, right? Always good to have a contingency plan. So we looked at whether or not we could safely and adequately modernize those existing classroom buildings on the campus. We explored multiple things with our project architect. We looked at things every which way. Really what we saw is from a cost-benefit perspective, it just wasn't going to pencil out to renovate those buildings that are on the older side. So we started exploring another alternate. We also started considering enrollment trends and capacity counts on this campus altogether, right? So as we see, here we have a quick snapshot on what enrollment looks like today, which is just under 2,400. What we see just going back 5 to 6 years is enrollment was close to 3,400 at one time, right? So we see that downward trend in terms of enrollment. We looked at this enrollment side of the house, not just in conjunction with the cost side of the house, because we wanted to gauge, you know, what we're doing as part of this Phase 2B. Are we doing the right thing by still building two-story large classroom buildings, or should we look at something slightly different? What we developed with the help of our project architect and our team is kind of a Plan 3 or Plan C, and that's what we see here in terms of our proposed plan. So we're still very much proposing to develop and build this large courtyard area for students to gather and just kind of converse and have lunch. We're still proposing a large lunch shelter area. This time we pictured it just below the admin building within that space that was previously occupied by another proposed new building. We show building 300 pictured there with 14 classrooms, and we still propose to build that as one large standalone building. The building would house the AIMS program for the site. It would house special ed and some certain life skills for the site as well. We liked the proximity and location of that program because of its proximity to the parking lot just to the south there. So we figured that could create a good bus drop-off loop if need be for special ed students as well. So just a lot of things going for us and in our favor with respect to this design. When we looked at the total number up top, 123 total classrooms on this site, when all is said and done, that will still give us capacity for, you know, roughly 3,500 kids on this campus. So we figured that this is a good landing spot. It still gives us ultimate flexibility to do things down the road, right? If there ever is that need for another building on this campus, we're still kind of preserving that space where we're showing that current lunch shelter. So we haven't plotted down another building. We're not leaving or recommending to leave one of the aging facilities out there as well. We figured this plan really gives us that ultimate flexibility to not only house current capacity, potential future capacity, and quite honestly, potentially another building down the road. From a cost standpoint, our original design option was inching close to $50 million to do the 2 new buildings plus the courtyard and lunch shelter. With this proposed plan, we're looking at $27 to $28 million in construction cost, which would likely take us to the 35 range or so for total project cost. Here's our building floor plans. Again, I won't spend too much time on this, but just wanted to give a quick snapshot at this point in time on what the interior of the building looks like. Floor 1, again, would house primarily special ed and life skills components for that program, and floor 2 would house the AIMS program. You see 7 classrooms apiece on each of those buildings. Building would also include office space, elevators, stairs, support spaces for custodial functions, of course. I'll attempt to play this quick fly-through video. Might ask for a little help from Chris on this one if I don't get it. This is just a 20-second video clip, and it gives us really a flyover of the Jordan campus to show what things look like and where they're situated in terms of new buildings, the courtyard I referenced, and other campus improvements that we've already embarked on along the way. Oh, it jumped right over. Thank you, Chris.
In the meantime, Mr. Miranda, are there accommodations for the wellness center at Jordan? I know that in the past we've had and Ms. Kerr, maybe you could help me out with this. Maybe it's not called the Wellness Center, but a place where students could go if they needed somebody to talk to.
Correct.
That type of thing.
And it's located in a different building, so I don't know if they would move it necessarily, but it's in the ground floor of the science building.
Okay. But it's still there?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, looks like it's ready to play here. So again, just a 20-second video clip. It's going to give us a flyover on what this campus is really transforming into. So right now we're off of Atlantic. There you see the proposed lunch shelter right off of the admin building. The building right at the center is the admin building you're looking at there, the true entry for students. We have the auditorium to the left, our current lunch shelter to the left there as well. Just kind of gave us a quick flyover, but it really finishes on this proposed building footprint. So there you see the proposed new building. You can see the parking lot off to the upper left, the lunch shelter area, and the large courtyard area as well. So again, the site could really benefit not just from the new building, the gathering space. There's a number of things we address just with the mere demolition of some of those buildings from a security standpoint, right? Lines of sight for administrative staff and principals as they're supervising students on the campus as well. So it really just checks a number of boxes, we feel. Thank you.
So Ms. Craighead, for your reference, on the bottom left where those 4 trees are, the Wellness Center is tucked in a classroom right there.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay. My mind is swirling because I haven't seen this yet. It looks beautiful. So this involves the demolition of, if I'm not mistaken, 2 buildings to create the courtyard, and then the 2 classroom buildings along Atlantic, or the building that includes the former cafeteria, correct?
Correct, so it's 4 buildings in total.
Right.
Yes.
And so that new building that would house special ed and Ames would come as you have the drive-through area in front of the the gymnasium. Thank you. So you're in the queues.
The project would include a slight reconfiguration, a slight expansion of that parking lot drop-off loop that you see down there as well.
Right, so that it could
and then the building would
accommodate-
go right off of there.
It would accommodate buses for special education, so there would be kind of a direct drop-off, and those classrooms obviously would be the newest and most modern special ed classrooms with all of the facilities needed.
Absolutely.
Because they've got a great program, and I know that they've worked hard on it. So I probably have more questions. They may come up at the end of your presentation as I've thought to it. I look forward to getting a copy of this presentation, and also that 20-second video would be really helpful. I'd love to post that this afternoon for our North Long Beach folks. I want to express gratitude on behalf of the council member and the community. They notice what's happening in North Long Beach and the transformation that's happening on a civic level with new development and new businesses along that corridor by Jordan. They are grateful for the work and the investment of this district in Jordan, and it's stunning. For those of you who haven't driven by lately, the front facade has been finished, the sign is done, there's landscaping, so it makes a huge difference, and I'm grateful for the continued investment of this district. This has been going on since before I was on the board. And I know we have a couple more years to finish it out, but I appreciate the continued investment and the continued attention to Jordan. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, our community workforce agreement. So I referenced how we shared a comprehensive update with respect to this agreement back in December as part of our bond update and facilities update. We then circled back and shared a board presentation and an update in January, at which point in time the agreement was approved. Right, so the agreement was set in motion at that point in time. Really just wanted to provide a quick snapshot with respect to where we've been and where we're going next on this agreement. So it did take quite a bit of time just to circulate the agreement and gather the 28 or 29 signatures from each of the trade councils. Of course, that came at a time as COVID was ramping up too, right? So we understood, we were in constant communication with Chris Hannon from the trade councils, who was our representative, and really helped us craft the terms of this agreement throughout the way. We finalized this agreement and officially signed on the dotted line on the district behalf in July. So the agreement is now in full swing. It's fully executed and done. So what else has happened since then? We did approve, just 2 board meetings ago, we selected a consultant to be our labor compliance and skilled and trade workforce coordinator of sorts. So that this individual will help us check a few boxes, not just on the labor compliance side, as we typically do on every construction project, but also ensuring we check the boxes with respect to all of the terms and conditions of this agreement. This consultant's done this type of work for several agencies and public entities out there, Long Beach Community College District being one of them. So they're very familiar with the area, very familiar with this type of work. In terms of next steps on our side of the house, we're really gonna go hard and fast with respect to the Apprenticeship Coordinator position. So we want to dig into the details and craft a job description and just dig into what that looks like. And we'll provide updates along the way for the school board. It's also time for us to go out there and embark on our next contractor outreach fair. So that's another one of those activities we had been talking about for some time internally that was impacted by COVID. We want to really ride on the success of some of the community outreach events we did virtually. We did some of these for some of our Measure E project updates. We were able to field questions and answers. We were able to address them as part of the presentation and virtual updates. We had quite a bit of help from Chris Iston and his team, and they just, the finished product was excellent. So we really want to ride on that wave and craft a virtual contractor outreach fair presentation next. We can provide general updates just like what we're doing here, but we can also jump into the terms and conditions of this CWDA and ensure our contractors are all familiar with its applicability, what it means, what it does not mean, and let them answer questions or ask questions. And then in terms of what's next on the project front, there's a few projects that were highlighted here that will be applicable to this Community Workforce Development Agreement. So in terms of the very next one, it will be Jordan 2B. So Jordan 2B is part of our project list. If all goes well and according to plan, we'll be in construction this time next year. So that's our hope at this point in time, and that's what our schedule reflects at this point in time. The one that would follow the year after would be the Wilson High School pool. That's another project that's part of this project list. So again, we'd have those back-to-back, large-scale, high-profile projects, both part of this agreement. Any questions on this one before I jump into our inclusive facilities and ask Sean to join us here?
I just have a question or clarification about the Apprenticeship Coordinator. I just wanted to highlight that again as one of the unique pieces of this workforce development agreement, and it's something that was dreamed up, I think, by this board and by this staff as one of the things that we were most hopeful about as we put this agreement together. So I'm grateful for our labor partners who saw a vision with us that they hadn't seen before, and I look forward to it being a model. So I just want to clarify, my understanding of this position is someone who, like our college and career counselors, who kind of coach our students through what a college admissions process would be. This would be a similar thing in that if we had students either in the ACE program or other engineering programs who said, I really want to go into construction and the trades, this would be a direct point person that they would be able to speak to who could help them navigate what that looks like, because we know that so many of our trades have amazing education programs. You know, IBEW is a 5-year program once you enter the program. So we know this would be a place where kids could actually go to say, I'm interested in being an electrician, in HVAC, an operating engineer, all of those things. So when we talk about college and career, this really does fulfill the career piece for those construction trades. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this fleshes out, who we would put in that position, and the mechanisms, especially within the COVID era, of how we get kids connected. Because we know for now, the construction industry is continuing to go full speed, and having that opportunity for students to connect so that as our kids are graduating for the class of 2021, hopefully by spring having a way to connect them to the trades if that's where they're interested.
That's exactly what we envisioned for this position, by the way, so you're right on, spot on, 100%. Really, we feel on our side just that exposure, right? So some students may know that they want to pursue a potential path down the electrical pathway. Some may not. They may not know that this option is out there. So we figure this individual can not just be the point person, they can help give these exposures to a potential field.
Great. Dr. Williams?
This is more for Jill. I know we had brought this up previously, but on our strategic document, we talk about preparing students for careers and higher ed. But we really don't expand on what the career piece means or what that entails. So we really need to address that in terms of what we're meaning for careers, so that people have a clear understanding, and also agencies and organizations have a clear understanding of how that adds to the overall preparation of our students throughout this district. So we really do need to cement that piece about careers. We've got the college piece down pat, But when in terms of talking about preparation for careers, we got a pretty big void there. Yeah.
Madam President?
Yes, Dr. Benitez.
Yes, so thank you for the Community Workforce Development Agreement update. I'm also appreciative of our labor partners and Chris Haddon being able to execute this given the COVID environment that we've all been experiencing. I have a sort of a big picture question regarding the Community Workforce Development Agreement. Could we get an updated, you mentioned Jordan and the pool being the next two sequential projects that would be attached to the Community Workforce Development Agreement. Could we get an updated list of the projects and any impact, given COVID, there is on the timelines of those projects? And really my question is, it's a big picture question. So I appreciate all the details that you've shared with us on the updates on the current projects and the workforce agreement. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about, sort of put on your big picture sort of analysis hat and sort of share with us your thoughts on how COVID longer term is impacting not just cost and timelines, but the way that we're approaching projects and measuring progress on projects. And you touched on it briefly with a couple of the detailed projects, but could you give us sort of just a big picture? You know, things have obviously gone from pivot to now strategic, right? Sort of midterm, longer term. And again, notwithstanding that there's going to be an increase real in cost, there's also going to have to be a rethinking of how we approach projects and then how we mitigate, again, given COVID, given when we transition to in-person, face-to-face instruction and those things. So just an open-ended sort of how you're thinking about sort of the longer term impacts of COVID with respect to our big projects.
Sure, great question, Dr. Benitez. So I can share one specific piece jumps to mind. And you know, we always strive to collaborate with our contractors and our project partners, and there's several of them on any given project. Now that COVID is here and we've kind of faced these realities, we're really stressing that point, and it just draws more attention to how important it is to collaborate with every one of our partners, in particular our contractor, right? So on many of these projects that we highlighted as part of this presentation, there are several phases to them, right? What we're seeing and what we learned from COVID and just the unexpected is how important it is to consider every potential which way and how to truly phase projects and engage the contractor feedback with respect to how we phase projects. And that's something I see as here to stay, right? So with respect to pre-construction services and bringing contractors on board, engaging their feedback and input on how we phase project, engaging the input and feedback of our site administrators and others throughout the district is going to be of the utmost importance. At any given time, the planner in us wants to plan what's going to happen in year 2 and year 3 and year 4 out. Again, maybe drawing closer attention to what that looks like just in case, right? So at any given time as we embark on a phase, are we still leaving enough classrooms and leaving enough flexibility to house students and staff at any given point in time? That's something we're just going to pay much closer attention to along the way, and that's the first thing that jumps out to me. The other piece I'll briefly touch on, conversations that are starting to happen just industry-wide with architects and engineers and others throughout our industry. You know, should we rethink the way classrooms are designed, right? So right now, I referenced kind of the typical box, the 960 square foot box, and that's been changing. We've had conversations off and on with various staff members on how larger spaces are great, flexible spaces are great, maybe less fixed furniture or casework is great from a flexibility standpoint. Yet those conversations are starting to happen with a number of architects and engineers behind the scenes. Is there certain things we should be looking at from a design perspective and just thinking differently, right? That could include outdoor spaces, outdoor learning environments, and so forth.
Madam Chair, one more question. Just to continue on, I know one of the comments, and this might be for Yumi as well, one of the things I've heard people say is, well, since students aren't in the classrooms now, why don't we just go in and do everything now? And as much as we would like that to be true, you're speaking to schedules, we were talking about the availability of contractors, but there's also a funding component of that doesn't allow us to do all of the work at one time because of how the bond money is structured. So Yumi, if you could just give us a quick explainer or reminder on how that works and why we can't rush in and fix everything now.
Yeah, so even though we're authorized as a $1.5 billion program, our latest Measure E is a $1.5 billion program, there's a limit to how much we can borrow of that $1 billion at once. So it's the tax rate, there's a limit on the amount that property taxpayers can pay in support and to pay the debt service on a bond. So that's $60 per $100,000 per assessed value. So there's just a limit on how much we can borrow. So it's really always just balancing how much we can borrow with the project needs at any one time. So we have issued, I believe, over $300 million, and probably in the next 3 years, we'll go out for another $150 million. So we can only do it incrementally in terms of borrowing.
Great point. Thank you. Okay, Sean, I'm going to ask Sean Abbott to join us. As Yumi noted on the introduction, Sean's our newest team member on the Measure E side of the house, and of course, we wouldn't have it any other way but to have her co-present right out the gate. So Sean, come on up.
Yes, welcome, Sean.
Thank you. All right, hope I can work the projector. I'm privileged to be here, and this was the first project I was able to get involved in the planning and really get to see how much planning goes into any facility. So we started sitting in, the first project were those aquatic centers, which are going to be at all the high schools. So that was right up my alley, high school aquatic centers. And so when we started talking to the focus groups, we talked about what would the facility look like, what are the facility needs, and set this goal that everybody wanted this safe, healthy, and inclusive environment for all stakeholders. And so what we looked at is, we just looked at the classic locker room. You got a boys' locker room, girls' locker room, and a single stall somewhere that's your gender-neutral restroom. And so as we started talking about it, and in the work that I had done at Lakewood, we realized that there are many students who are uncomfortable changing in those huge locker rooms anyway, regardless of their affiliation, regardless of their background. It may be religious reasons. It may be that they're part of the LGBTQ community. There may be a lot of reasons why students don't want to change in large locker room areas. The other thing that came up that we didn't think about in our all-gender restroom at Lakewood, which is that, and it started to happen, which is that we have a lot of caregivers that take care of our students, our special education students, and so you may have a male student and a female caregiver. And so one of the things we found in the all-gender restrooms is that they could access those facilities. And then when it came to the facilities like the locker rooms for the aquatic centers, those are going to be large community centers. There's going to be a large use of families that come to these pools and use them in the summertime. And so their parents and caregivers that might also benefit from a more inclusive facility. One of the things that you see here are the models, and this was a lesson learned at Lakewood when Dr. Brown and I did our initial work on the all-gender restrooms, which is that, yes, you do need that additional privacy. So the picture there, you can see what a changing stall would look like that provides that additional privacy, but from a principal's lens, also provides the ability to supervise. You can see a little above, and you can see a little below those changing facilities, and the same things in the restrooms, so that you can adequately supervise, but yet the students have privacy and caregivers. So, and I did a lot of research and looked to see what's happening around the country as far as athletic facilities and what are other districts doing. And there is a lot of movement across the country around more inclusive facilities. There's a great universal co-ed facility at Berkeley. A district in Illinois has gone all of their schools to these inclusive facilities. And it kind of goes back to the idea that people want more privacy in this day and age than they might have when we designed those single gender facilities in the past. And one of the things that stuck with me was an article that called them gang showers, and I think we can all relate to maybe that was not our most pleasant memory of high school or middle school. Many of those showers go unused now. And so in working with Lakewood, here's what we discovered the students said about creating all gender or more inclusive facilities. That a single stall would not be adequate for the students because how many students need it? Do they need to stand outside and be a target for bullying, teasing? Why do you want to use this facility? Why don't you use the same one everybody else does? So that idea of waiting in line. The idea that the nurse's office was a place to go, and what message does that send to students if you have to go to the nurse's office to change? And they said that it's important that it be convenient and accessible. They wanted to have access to facilities just like anybody else, but because I wanted more privacy, I didn't want to have to go someplace special in the back or to a corner of the campus. And so, and the other lesson that we learned is that there's definitely some introduction that the community, the staff, and the students need because it is a non-traditional format for a facility. And so questions come up about safety, security, and things of that nature that we really were able to work with our community at Lakewood. And what we discovered is that our all-gender restroom was perceived by many students as actually being safer. And one mom called me and said, she goes, you know, I really appreciate it because my daughter's boyfriend walks her to the bathroom and she was being beat up in the girls' bathroom. So there were things that arose when we created that all-gender facility and safety and security that we really never thought about, but that were great benefits to the students. And there's that picture of the lovely universal locker room space that's being created at Berkeley. And so who's been involved? So we started pulling we wanted to get a lot of perspective on including creating these facilities. So those are some of the groups that have been involved. We've had teachers and athletic coaches involved. We've had district administrators. Dr. Simon's been involved in this particular project and stepped into some of the planning meetings. We've reached out to the LGBTQ Center. We've worked with students, pool attendants, and folks that would be involved in utilizing the facility on a day-to-day basis. And again, here's the things that came up. Safety and supervision, but we overcame a problem that was in the original design. We had a boys' locker room, a girls' locker room, 2 different coaches, and the issue came up, well, what if we have a male coach supervising a female team? So now what do we do with the offices and who goes in what office and who's supervising which space? Or what if we don't have any female coaches that day? Who's supervising that locker room? So by creating this inclusive facility, and Brooke will show you some of the innovative designs that they came up with, it actually provides a great way that any gender coach, PE teacher can supervise that locker room. The privacy, of course, had to be a big part of it. If you're going to have boys, girls in a facility together, then of course you've got to have a privacy standard and you have to have a little bit different stall design than you might in a single gender restroom. And then, of course, the big one that came up again, which was this was brought up by PE teachers as we were talking about it, the idea of our special education students who were in wheelchairs, who now are taking mainstream PE, which is wonderful, but where do they get to change? How do they access the pool? How do they get into that facility and truly have good access to that facility? And so this inclusive facility solved that problem as well. And so when we looked at it, it goes back, and I kind of mentioned this already. There were only a few design, there are a few design options. You could just do that little single stall thing. We looked at what would it be with all gender and boys and girls, but the facility that most of the focus group, all of the focus group really picked was we call it the Wilson case study, was the design for the Wilson locker room, which is an all-inclusive locker room space. And with that, I think we have some design options, and we'll start with Keller Locker Room. I'm going to turn it over to, is that you, David? Okay.
I'll take it.
To talk about the design and the architecture behind it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So there's just a few slides here, and then we'll really want to gauge your thoughts and feedback with respect to these design options. We're at a point in our design where we require some decisions prior to moving forward into the next phase of design, right? On a typical project of this size, we roughly look at a year for overall design and engineering, another year for state agency approvals and a bidding process before we can break ground. And for both the Keller project and the Wilson project, as you remember, we showed those roughly 2 years out in terms of the construction schedule. So we're really at that point. What I want to walk you through is just a few design options. Here you see a traditional design option on really what's carved out as a boys and girls dedicated locker room facility. So you see the boys space up top, the girls space down below in terms of the yellow or orange highlighted spaces there. What you see as part of this facility at this point is 2 adjoining classrooms for physical education and fitness and other components. But really what you see is that clear line across the middle, right, separating the boys space from the girls space. What we see in the current design option, and this is what our project architect has laid out for us to date, is what this space could look like for Long Beach Unified, right? So there you see the changing spaces. Those are at the very center of the image. Those are the changing rooms. There's quite a few of those. I think we're proposing 50 or 52 just within this complex. Some you'll note off to the perimeter closest to the classroom facilities. Some you'll note a little larger. Those are for accessibility requirements and larger spaces for every one of our students. To the left of the image, you see a few designs there, kind of blocks and carve-outs that are in black. Those are the lockers. So again, a student would walk in this facility, go into the changing room, change into their PE clothes, grab their belongings, and then go and put them in one of these lockers before they exit out, either into the classroom space for fitness or perhaps into the field for other PE-related activities. The space sort of in the middle of the image there in green, it would be kind of a common space for restroom access, right? So you still see different partitions for privacy, of course, yet you see a common space and a shared space in terms of sinks and hand washing stations. You also see there in 2 rectangles there, slightly in orange, those are deemed coaches' offices. So we place them on either end of this facility just for good lines of sight to this entire building. And there's different ways to do this. This was our architect's early draft and early rendition just to give us a visual on what this could look like. And then the next image over shows another one of these potential complexes, and this is the one Sean referenced in terms of the focus group comments. So again, a similar facility in terms of changing stalls at the center. This one shows lockers. It's tough to see, but the small little squares along the perimeter are the lockers really around this entire footprint. In this image, you see the restrooms off to the right hand of the image. And again, a common space for hand washing stations and sinks as well. Here what we show up at the top is a coach's office or a larger coach's office gathering space and a coach's restroom. And really we took it that extra layer here, right? So not only are we saying inclusive facilities for students, but also for staff. So to Sean's point, could be male coach coaching females, could be vice versa. What we've said is we're proposing to design a similar concept, not just for the students, but also for the staff members or the coaches in this facility. So again, these are just some very early rough sketches and schematic designs, but really the goal of our presentation, while I want your feedback and thoughts on the entirety of the presentation, I really welcome it with respect to this specific part on the inclusive facilities.
I have a question about the capacity of those locker rooms with the individual spaces. About how many students will that configuration accommodate?
With this current design, we show 52 or 54 counts of changing stalls. At any given point in time, we know we could have upwards of 100 students in a PE class when you look at boys and girls classes. So there would be that layering, right? You'd probably have a phase 1 of change outs, and then the next group would go in and change out as well as soon as they see those kids exit those facilities. So roughly half the number of changing stalls for what we would typically see in a large PE class.
Okay.
Can I comment, question? I'm really glad to see us moving in this direction. My specific question is my hope that as we do this inclusive restroom locker room inclusive facilities in general, that as we move forward in Jordan in the planning phases, that it becomes the standard moving forward at Jordan specifically. And I appreciated the conversation in that we've come to the place where we understand that this is about safety for all students. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we started this conversation because our LGBTQ plus community asked us to. Specifically, our trans students asked us to. And it wasn't just about privacy, it was about safety, and a real fear in them around some of the issues that we talked about. So I just want to lift up those voices that they brought us to this issue. And I think it's important for us not to say, yeah, now it's great for every kid, when we know that this is a restorative practice and a transformational process for those students specifically who have not been or felt safe in the past. So I'm glad that we are here as a way to honor that work. So especially to the center and to our trans students and families and caregivers, I appreciate that their voices have really pushed us into this inclusive space where it feels like we should be all the time and that we should have been a long time ago. So thank you for this presentation. Thank you for this work. And however it comes to play in terms of, I don't have a real opinion on design right now, but 100%, 1,000% support that this is the work we do moving forward without question. And I understand there'll be a community education piece of this, but I also know that before pre-COVID, obviously when I went to City Hall to go to a city council meeting, that the restrooms in the new City Hall building are just that. Everyone walks into the same restroom and has a stall, and it's communal washing spaces. So I'm glad to see us moving in that direction so that it becomes the standard, especially in the district and in Long Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay.
Madam Chair?
Dr. Benitez? Is that
Yes, just to, thank you, Board Member Kerr, for highlighting that this should be and was originally anchored around our LGBTQ voices. So the one recommendation I do have for the design, the ultimate quote unquote finalization of the design, is that my recommendation would be that we include as the part of the community education piece exactly what Board Member Kerr referenced, right? So that if there are questions and or thoughts around why it was designed a particular way, that, I appreciate the fact that we're looking at safety and privacy and inclusivity and accessibility, but that folks also through that community education piece be reminded that this specifically came because of our LGBTQ community voices, and I think uplifting those through the community education piece would be very important. So as an example, why we refer to spaces as all gender spaces versus, and they're not mutually exclusive of each other, but gender neutral or other terminology, I think those are important to uplift through the community education process, but I think that those can also be helpful in getting input and responses, whether it be from us or other focus groups on the design, that we don't lose sight of that. So thank you, Board Member Kerr.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to the,
Thank you. I
Dr.
just wanted
Baker.
to thank the team who's here to present and those who have been working so hard through our closure, just to accelerate the work for cost savings and to make sure that that our students have what they need. I just wanted to also pin this back to the organizational structure. So the question was asked about business offices and the excellence and equity agenda. And I think hearing about construction across the city, that is exceptional construction no matter where you go, the focus on college and career, to your point, Dr. Williams, thinking about careers for our students that are really the connection to the workforce agreement, and then inclusivity. This really is a great example without having to do a whole other presentation on excellence and equity in a business office. So thank you all.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you to you and your team. Okay. The next item on the agenda is Office of School Safety. We're a little ahead.
Madam President, I think we should take a 5-minute stretch break just to have the staff come in and get set up, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, a 5-minute break, or or so? Okay, well, let's reconvene in 5 minutes.
Okay.